Ravi had not planned to stop at the outpost. The small floating station drifted silently near the edge of a distant star system, its metal walls reflecting the dim light of the nearby stars. Most humans avoided this sector. It was known for strict alien patrols, unpredictable traders, and occasional skirmishes over mining rights. Yet here he was, quietly pushing open the sliding door of the outpost, carrying nothing more than a small bag and a calm expression. Inside, the tavern was a mix of scents, colors, and sounds. The air smelled faintly of burned metal, alien spices, and fermented drinks. The patrons were diverse, some humanoid, some not. Many had strange limbs, glowing eyes, or scales that shimmered in low light. The clinking of cups and quiet hum of conversations filled the room, blending into a background that Ravi found comforting. Ravi's appearance drew little attention. His brown hair was trimmed short, his clothes simple but clean. To the alien guards stationed near the entrance, he was just another traveler. They were tall, armored, and imposing, with glowing eyes that scanned everyone who entered. Their heavy footsteps and mechanical movements intimidated most visitors. But Ravi moved calmly, unaffected by their presence. He walked to the bar counter, wiping his hands on a towel, and arranged the few glasses he had already cleaned. The patrons noticed the new bartender, but only briefly. No one knew his past, and no one suspected what lay behind his quiet demeanor. Ravi had once been Earth's most feared warrior. His name was whispered in hushed tones across multiple planets. Battles he had fought, strategies he had devised, and victories he had earned made him a legend. Yet now he served drinks in a small alien tavern, a far cry from the fields of war and battle halls he once knew. He had left that life behind intentionally. For him, the thrill of combat had faded. What mattered now was survival, understanding, and the subtle power of observing and guiding others without force. A young alien with bluish skin approached the bar nervously, holding a small metallic cup. "Human," he said in a hesitant tone, "can you pour this drink?" Ravi smiled slightly and nodded. He poured the liquid carefully, his hands steady. "Here," he said softly, placing the cup on the counter. "Be careful. It is strong." The young alien's eyes widened as he tasted the drink. "Very strong," he whispered. "You know your work well," Ravi simply nodded. He did not correct the alien or boast. His life now was about observing and helping quietly. The tavern had its own rhythm, and he had learned to move in harmony with it. The alien guards were preoccupied. They focused on travelers who wore suspicious gear or carried weapons. Ravi's simple presence did not trigger any alarms. They did not see his hands scarred and strong, hinting at a past of battles and skill. They did not see the careful control in his movements, the alertness in his eyes. To them he was invisible. As the night grew darker outside, more patrons arrived. Traders, smugglers, travelers, and wanderers crowded the tavern. Conversations were loud, animated, and sometimes heated. Ravi moved among them, serving drinks and listening carefully. His ears picked up snippets of information, rumors of new conflicts, whispers of fleets moving through the stars, and discussions of distant planets under threat. One table of travelers argued about a recent skirmish near a mining station. "The aliens attacked without warning," said a tall humanoid with green eyes. "They wanted the resources. We barely escaped." Ravi nodded politely as he served their drinks. Inside, he calculated strategies, thought about weaknesses in their tactics, and imagined the consequences if similar threats reached more populated areas. His mind worked differently now. He did not seek glory, but he could not ignore danger. His instincts as a warrior remained sharp, even if he no longer wore armor or carried a weapon. Suddenly, the tavern door hissed open, and two armored aliens entered. They were larger than the guards outside, with sharp features and golden armor. Their glowing eyes scanned the room, lingering on travelers with unusual clothing or gadgets. They walked confidently toward the center of the tavern, attracting the attention of many patrons. The young alien who had first spoken to Ravi whispered nervously, "They are the elite." "Be careful, human." Ravi's expression did not change. He moved behind the bar, cleaning a glass as if nothing had happened. Yet his mind was alert. The elite aliens were confident, perhaps too confident. They carried themselves with arrogance, underestimating anyone who did not appear threatening. That arrogance could be dangerous. The elite aliens approached a group of traders at a nearby table, demanding explanations for certain shipments. Voices rose and the conversation became tense. Some patrons began to murmur. Ravi stepped forward subtly, offering a calming gesture to the nearest alien who was about to act rashly. "Slow down," he said in a calm, steady voice. "Let us discuss this before any actions are taken." The alien turned to him, eyes glowing brighter, assessing him for a moment. Ravi's stance was relaxed, but his presence was firm. He did not threaten, yet he radiated control. The tension in the room eased slightly. The elite aliens did not expect a human to speak with such authority. Still, they were not alarmed. To them, he was just a bartender trying to be helpful, nothing more. Ravi returned to his work, pouring drinks and listening. Each movement was deliberate, each gesture measured. He served a mix of aliens with precision, noticing details others might miss. A subtle flicker in someone's eyes, the shift in posture that indicated fear or dishonesty. These were small things, but they mattered. They told him more than words ever could. By late evening, the tavern had grown crowded. Ravi's efficiency and calm demeanor impressed some patrons, but the guards remained unaware of his true skill. They walked past him, talking to each other, focused on what they believed were real threats. They underestimated him entirely. One elderly traveler, a humanoid with silver hair and a long robe, leaned over the counter. "You have calm hands," he said softly. "I have seen many who cannot control themselves even in simple tasks." "You seem different," Ravi nodded politely. "Experience teaches control," he replied, keeping his tone humble. "And life teaches patience." The old traveler studied him with curiosity but did not press further. To most in the tavern, Ravi was just a quiet human, skilled at serving drinks, listening to stories, and offering calm words when needed. They could not see the depth behind his eyes, the years of training, the countless battles fought, the strategies remembered from a past life. As night deepened, the outpost became quieter. Some patrons retired to their quarters while others lingered, sharing stories or laughing quietly. Ravi cleaned the bar and prepared for the next day, his movement steady, almost meditative. Outside, the stars shone brightly against the dark void of space, and the silence of the outpost was almost complete. Ravi paused for a moment, looking out of the window. He reflected on how different this life was compared to the one he had led. No battles for glory, no fame, no fear. Here he found purpose in small actions, in observation, and in subtle influence. Yet deep inside, he knew that his skills might be needed again. The galaxy was not always peaceful, and danger could come even to quiet places. For now, however, he remained unnoticed. The alien guards ignored him completely. They did not know he had once been Earth's most feared warrior. They did not know that behind the calm, simple bartender was a man capable of changing the course of conflicts. In their eyes, he was harmless. In truth, he was waiting, watching, and preparing for the day he might be called upon once more. And as the night continued in the floating outpost, Ravi served one last drink, nodded to the remaining patrons, and continued his quiet work, blending into the rhythm of the tavern, a silent guardian in the shadows, a human who had left battlefields behind but had not left his instincts. The galaxy moved around him, unaware of the potential that existed in a single, unassuming human. The next morning, the outpost was alive with movement. Traders carried crates of supplies, merchants arranged their goods, and travelers wandered in and out, speaking in many languages. The alien guards walked through the hallways with their usual precision, their glowing eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. Yet they paid no attention to Ravi. Ravi stood behind the bar, cleaning a long, narrow glass. The sunlight from a distant star reflected softly on the metal walls of the tavern. He moved carefully, almost as if performing a small ritual, ensuring everything was in order. Patrons began to gather, some returning from the night before, others new to the outpost. Ravi welcomed each quietly, offering drinks and a calm smile. A group of aliens, shorter and more colorful than the guards, entered the tavern. They carried small pouches that jingled as they walked. Their eyes darted around nervously, clearly concerned about something. Ravi noticed immediately. He had learned to read subtle cues, the way someone shifted their weight, the tension in their shoulders, the quick glance toward a door or a shadow. "Human," one of them said in a hushed tone. "Have you heard anything about the fleets moving in the outer systems?" Ravi poured their drinks carefully. "I hear stories," he said quietly. "Some say danger comes, some say it passes. What do you want to know? The alien looked at him, surprised by his calmness. The danger is real. Ships have been attacked near the mining colonies. Traders vanish without a trace. The patrols do not respond quickly. We fear what is coming, Ravi nodded. He listened, quietly absorbing every word. His mind began to analyze the patterns. Even here, far from Earth, he could detect the signs of organized planning, of forces moving carefully, trying not to be noticed. Be careful, he said softly, and trust your instincts. Most attacks begin where people are too confident. Do not underestimate the quiet corners or the overlooked travelers. The aliens looked at him with a mix of surprise and respect. They had not expected such clear advice from a simple bartender. Ravi smiled slightly but returned to his work, polishing another glass. He preferred to remain unnoticed. The less attention he drew, the more he could watch and understand. Across the room, a few younger aliens were arguing loudly. One claimed that a nearby outpost had been destroyed by unknown attackers. Another said it was a natural accident. Voices rose and tension filled the air. Ravi moved silently between tables, calming the arguments with gentle words and careful observation. Listen, he said to the group. Stories are many, and truth can be hidden. Focus on facts, not fear. Check carefully before acting. The younger aliens paused, realizing that the human spoke wisely. They quieted themselves, and some even began to smile, impressed by his calm authority. The alien guards glanced briefly at Ravi but continued their patrol. They saw him as harmless, a quiet presence who only cleaned glasses and served drinks. They had no idea that he could have outmaneuvered all of them in an instant if he chose to. Later, a trader from a distant planet arrived with urgent news. He was humanoid with silver hair and a long coat. His voice was low but firm as he spoke to a group near the bar. The fleet in the outer system has been seen moving toward the mining colonies. Reports say they are well armed and they do not leave survivors. If nothing is done, they will strike here next. A murmur ran through the tavern. Some patrons looked frightened. Others exchanged worried glances. Ravi listened carefully, noting the details and patterns. He could see where defenses were weak, where panic might spread, and how the alien guards might respond if they did not act carefully. Ravi poured a drink for the trader. You have delivered important information, he said quietly. Plan carefully. Panic will help no one. The trader nodded. I try, but many here do not understand the danger. Ravi smiled faintly. They will learn if they listen. As the day went on, the tavern became a center of information. Travelers told stories, shared rumors, and discussed possible threats. Some spoke of strange ships appearing suddenly, moving faster than known technology allowed. Others mentioned unusual creatures seen near mining stations, causing fear and confusion. Ravi listened to all, noting patterns in the reports and seeing connections others missed. A group of elite alien warriors entered the tavern around midday. They were taller than the regular guards, with golden armor and glowing eyes. They walked with confidence, speaking loudly and inspecting travelers with sharp glances. Many patrons shrank back, wary of their presence. The elite aliens approached a table where some traders had gathered. They demanded to know why the reports of missing ships had not been acted upon. Voices rose quickly. Tension filled the room, and some patrons feared a fight might break out. Ravi moved calmly to the side, observing closely. He did not intervene yet, but his eyes missed nothing. He noted the guard patterns, the weaknesses in their formations, and the subtle errors in their communication. To most, the elite aliens were intimidating and perfect. To Ravi, they were flawed, overconfident, and predictable. When a young alien spilled a drink accidentally on one of the elite warriors, chaos seemed ready to erupt. The elite alien's hand moved toward his weapon, and the room tensed. Ravi stepped forward quickly, but without aggression. Stop, he said in a calm, steady voice. His presence alone seemed to freeze the situation. It was an accident. Handle it with words, not force. The elite alien turned toward him, surprised by the confidence in the human's tone. Ravi's movements were precise, his posture relaxed yet controlled. The young alien who had spilled the drink looked at him in relief. After a tense moment, the elite alien lowered his hand. The situation de-escalated, and the patrons relaxed. Ravi returned to his station behind the bar, quietly wiping a glass as if nothing had happened. Yet every eye in the room had noticed his calm authority. The day continued with more travelers entering the tavern. Some sought shelter, some traded goods, and some came simply to drink and talk. Ravi served everyone patiently, listening carefully and offering quiet advice when necessary. Each interaction gave him more information, more understanding of the tensions spreading through the galaxy. By afternoon, Ravi noticed a small group of alien traders whispering near a window. They spoke in low voices, glancing at the guards and the doors. Ravi approached quietly, pretending to clean nearby glasses. "You speak quietly," he said softly. "I hear what you say. Trust can save lives. Fear can destroy them." The traders looked startled. "Human," one said. "How do you know so much?" Ravi smiled faintly. "I listen and I watch. That is enough for now." They nodded, realizing that the human offered wisdom beyond what they expected. Some began to follow his advice, adjusting their plans and actions to avoid unnecessary risk. Ravi's influence was subtle but effective. The alien guards, still focused on what they considered real threats, walked past him without notice. They continued to ignore the quiet human who moved among the patrons with precision, intelligence, and awareness, far beyond what they understood. As evening approached, Ravi prepared the tavern for the night. The light from nearby stars cast long shadows across the floor. Patrons began to leave, some heading to sleeping quarters, others returning to their ships. The conversation slowed, replaced by quiet reflections and soft laughter. Ravi paused for a moment, looking around the tavern. He thought about the information he had gathered during the day, the rumors, the fears, the patterns of movement. The galaxy was shifting and forces were moving in ways many did not notice. He understood that his skills, once used for fame and power, might soon be needed again to protect innocent lives. A young alien approached the bar one last time. "Human," he said quietly, "you have helped more than you know." "Thank you," Ravi nodded. "Be careful. Watch carefully. Life is safer when you pay attention." The young alien smiled, taking the advice seriously. Ravi returned to his duties, cleaning, arranging, and observing. The tavern settled into a quiet rhythm, a fragile peace in a galaxy full of unknown dangers. Outside, the stars shone brightly. The alien outpost drifted silently, unaware of the approaching fleets, unaware of the subtle but powerful human watching and preparing for what might come. Ravi served quietly, listened carefully, and observed endlessly, a calm presence among chaos, a hidden force ready for the day when action would be needed. For now, the galaxy moved around him. Stories were shared, fears whispered, and rumors spread, but Ravi remained focused, understanding, and prepared. The alien guards continued to ignore him, believing he was harmless. They had no idea that behind the quiet eyes of this simple bartender lay the mind, skill, and courage of Earth's most feared warrior. And as night fell, the tavern lights reflected softly on the metal walls. Ravi continued to serve, to observe, and to guide quietly. The galaxy had not yet tested him, but when it did, it would find that a quiet human could change more than anyone could imagine. The following day, the tavern was quieter than usual. A soft hum of machinery and the distant clatter of crates moving echoed through the alien outpost. Travelers had begun to sense unease. Whispers of distant fleets and missing trading ships were on everyone's lips. Even the alien guards seemed more alert than before, scanning the corridors with sharper focus. Yet none of them noticed Ravi, who moved calmly behind the bar, arranging bottles and polishing glasses with steady hands. Ravi's eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the room. He noticed small signs that others missed: a young alien fidgeting nervously near the door, a trader checking a strange device repeatedly, and subtle changes in the guards' movements. Each detail told him a story of growing tension. Danger was near. At a corner table, a silver-haired traveler leaned toward Ravi. "The fleet," he whispered. "It moves faster than expected. Reports say they have new ships armed with advanced technology. They may attack the outpost very soon." Ravi nodded slowly, pouring a drink with care. "Then we must prepare. Even small precautions can make a difference." The traveler looked at him, eyes wide. "You know how to fight?" Ravi shook his head gently. "Not in this place. My fight is different now. My mind is my weapon." Throughout the day, rumors spread quickly in the tavern. Some patrons spoke of skirmishes near mining colonies. Others described strange lights in the sky, ships moving silently and faster than expected. A few said the attacks left no survivors, striking quickly and vanishing. Fear grew in the hearts of travelers and locals alike. Ravi listened to every word, absorbing the information and analyzing it. Patterns emerged. He noticed which routes the attackers might take, and where the outpost's defenses were weak. The alien guards were preparing as best as they could, but they were inexperienced with this type of threat. They relied on brute force rather than careful planning. Ravi knew that a mistake could cost many lives. As the afternoon passed, a small group of scouts reported an unusual sight near the outskirts of the outpost. Strange ships, unlike any seen before, had appeared on long-range scanners. They hovered silently, their designs sleek and menacing. The alien guards reacted immediately, rushing to alert the patrols and ready weapons. Ravi stepped outside to observe. The ships gleamed in the distant sunlight, moving in formation with precise coordination. A casual observer would have been terrified. Ravi, however, assessed them calmly. He noticed weaknesses in their pattern and timing, gaps where a skilled hand could intervene or defend. His mind calculated every possible outcome, every movement required to protect the civilians. Inside the tavern, a few patrons had gathered near the windows, watching the approaching ships. Fear was visible on their faces. Some whispered prayers, others debated whether to flee. Ravi walked among them, offering calm words. "Do not panic," he said softly. "Observe, prepare, and move carefully. Strength is in control, not fear." The patrons listened, reassured by his steady presence. The alien guards, meanwhile, were outside, organizing their patrols and checking their weapons. They had not asked for Ravi's guidance. They assumed he was only a bartender, not someone with knowledge or skill that could influence the outcome. Ravi's chance to act came when a small group of intruder ships approached closer than expected. A minor skirmish began at the edge of the outpost. The guards rushed forward hastily, firing without coordination. Their movements were predictable, leaving openings that the enemy could exploit. Civilians were in danger of being caught in the crossfire. Ravi moved with precision, stepping outside without weapons, but with complete awareness of his surroundings. He intercepted a panicked civilian, guiding them to safety with firm but gentle hands. He signaled to a few aliens to take cover in safer areas. His actions were subtle, almost unnoticed by the guards, but they prevented immediate chaos. One intruder ship fired, striking a storage container near the docking bay. Sparks flew and debris scattered. Panic threatened to rise, but Ravi remained calm. He assessed the situation quickly and instructed the nearby aliens to block vulnerable points and secure the exits. His guidance was quiet, yet effective. The panic subsided slightly, replaced by careful, controlled movement. A few elite alien warriors arrived, ready to confront the intruders. They expected a direct battle, relying on their size and armor to intimidate the attackers. Ravi observed their formation, noting weaknesses and errors. If the elite warriors moved recklessly, they could endanger the civilians. He stepped closer, quietly suggesting adjustments. Move in a staggered pattern. Watch the blind spots. Protect those who cannot fight. The elite aliens hesitated, surprised by the confidence in the human's voice. They adjusted their positions slightly, following his advice without fully understanding why. The result was immediate. Their movements became more efficient, their defense more secure, and the intruders found it harder to exploit gaps. Ravi's presence was calm, non-threatening, yet strategic. He did not fight for glory or show off. His experience as a warrior now served to protect rather than dominate. Each instruction he gave, each small intervention, prevented injuries and saved lives. Civilians were moved to safer areas, guards were guided toward weak points in their defense, and the intruders were slowed without full confrontation. The battle outside the tavern was brief but revealing. The intruders retreated, realizing the outpost was better defended than expected. They vanished as quickly as they had arrived, leaving a tense silence behind. Civilians breathed easier, and the alien guards regrouped, still unaware of Ravi's influence. Inside the tavern, Ravi returned to his post behind the bar. Patrons whispered among themselves, impressed by what had happened, though few understood the full extent. A young alien approached him. "Human, you helped us today. How did you know what to do?" Ravi smiled faintly. "Experience and observation. I watch carefully, learn quickly, and act when needed. Strength is not always in weapons, but in knowing what to do before others act." The young alien nodded, understanding the wisdom but not the history behind it. To them, Ravi was still a quiet human who had acted wisely. They did not yet know the full story of Earth's once feared warrior hiding in plain sight. The alien guards continued their routine, checking the perimeter and reporting to their commanders. They assumed the humans were harmless. They had no idea that the calm bartender they ignored had already prevented disaster with his actions. Their arrogance and underestimation could have been costly. Ravi cleaned the bar, arranged the remaining supplies, and took a moment to look out the window. The stars glimmered in the distance, and the void of space seemed peaceful. Yet he knew the peace was fragile. The intruder's appearance was not random. It was a warning of larger threats approaching. His mind worked continuously, planning, calculating, and preparing for the future. Later, a traveler from another system entered the tavern. She was a small humanoid with violet eyes, carrying a message from nearby colonies. "They say the fleets are larger than anyone expected," she whispered to Ravi. "They are organized and moving quickly. Many outposts may fall." Ravi listened carefully. "Then preparation is necessary. Alert those who can help and protect those who cannot defend themselves. Focus on strategy, not fear." The traveler nodded, taking the advice seriously. She left quickly, spreading the words and helping others understand the threat. Ravi returned to his duties quietly, observing, listening, and planning. By evening, the tavern had settled into a quieter rhythm. Some patrons discussed the events of the day, others shared small stories to distract themselves from fear. Ravi served drinks patiently, always aware of the subtle movements, the unspoken tensions, and the undercurrents of fear that still lingered. He knew the calm was temporary. Danger would return, larger and more organized. The outpost could not withstand a full assault without strategy, coordination, and careful planning. Ravi's mind worked through every scenario, considering the enemy's possible tactics and how the alien guards could be guided to act more effectively. A young alien returned to the bar one last time. "Human," he said softly, "you saved lives today. But will you fight if they return?" Ravi's eyes were calm and steady. "If they must be stopped, I will act. But first I prepare. Knowledge and patience are stronger than rash action. When the time comes, I will do what is needed." The young alien nodded, inspired by the quiet courage and intelligence before him. Ravi returned to polishing glasses, arranging bottles, and observing the patrons with careful attention. The next morning, the atmosphere in the tavern felt different. There was a sense of unease lingering in the air, subtle but tangible. Patrons whispered in corners, eyes darting to the skies and the distant scanners that displayed incoming ships. The rumors from the previous day had spread quickly, and now fear had begun to take root. Travelers, traders, and even some alien residents looked to the guards for reassurance. Yet the guards themselves seemed tense, unsure how to respond to the growing threat. Ravi moved calmly behind the bar as usual, arranging bottles and polishing glasses. Every movement was deliberate, every glance attentive. He had spent days observing, listening, and understanding the dynamics of the outpost. Today, he realized, the situation required more than quiet guidance. The outpost needed leadership, strategy, and preparation that the guards alone could not provide. A group of elite alien officials arrived unexpectedly. Their golden armor glimmered in the soft light of the tavern, and their presence immediately drew attention. Patrons fell silent, and even the regular guards straightened, standing taller with tense precision. One of the officials, tall with an imposing posture, spoke first. "We have heard of your presence," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "We want to know who you truly are, human." Ravi paused for a moment, polishing a glass but keeping his expression calm. He had remained quiet for days, observing and guiding quietly. Now the time had come to reveal a small part of the truth. "I am Ravi," he said evenly. "I serve drinks here and I observe. I help where I can." The official's glowing eyes narrowed. "That is not enough. You acted today to protect civilians and influence the battle outside. Your actions were precise and deliberate. We need to know your history." Ravi sighed softly. He had hidden this part of himself for many years, leaving a life of fame and fear behind on Earth. But now, the safety of the outpost depended on honesty. "I was trained on Earth," he began quietly. "I studied strategy, combat, and leadership. I fought in many battles and protected many lives. I was known as a warrior, but I left that life behind. I no longer fight for glory. My goal now is to protect and guide, to prevent unnecessary harm." The officials exchanged surprised glances. The guards who had ignored him before now felt a mixture of awe and shame. They had dismissed this quiet human as harmless, and now they realized they had been wrong. Ravi's calm presence had hidden strength, intelligence, and experience that few could match. One official stepped closer. "If what you say is true, human, you possess knowledge that can save this outpost. Will you help us prepare for the threat approaching?" Ravi nodded. "I will. But preparation is more than weapons. It is strategy, coordination, and understanding. I can guide you, train your warriors, and strengthen the defenses. But everyone must listen and act carefully." The officials agreed, and Ravi began immediately. He first focused on the alien guards, who had previously relied on brute force and routine. He showed them the weaknesses in their positions, the blind spots in their patrols, and how to communicate silently and effectively. The guards were initially reluctant, surprised that a human was giving instructions. But Ravi's calm authority and precise explanations earned their respect. Next, he worked with the elite warriors. He taught them subtle movements, positioning, and timing. He emphasized observation, patience, and coordination. "Do not rush into battle," he said. "The goal is to protect lives, not prove strength." The patrons watched in fascination as the aliens practiced under Ravi's guidance. They moved more efficiently, anticipating threats and covering each other's blind spots. The human who had once been invisible now held their attention, not through fear or intimidation, but through skill and wisdom. Meanwhile, Ravi also prepared the civilians. He instructed them on evacuation routes, safe zones, and simple defensive measures. Everyone participated, learning to work together. The sense of fear began to transform into quiet determination. Even those who had doubted the importance of preparation now followed his instructions with care and focus. As the day progressed, Ravi assessed the outpost's defenses. He noticed that some supply routes were vulnerable, and that certain sections of the walls could be reinforced with minimal resources. He devised a plan to create barriers, secure entrances, and set up communication lines that allowed quick alerts if any intruder approached. A small group of travelers approached him nervously. "Human, the fleets are larger than anyone expected," one said. "What can we do to help?" Ravi looked at them thoughtfully. "Observe and report. Follow instructions. Protect those who cannot defend themselves. Your presence, attention, and cooperation matter as much as weapons. Everyone has a role to play." By late afternoon, the entire outpost had become a hive of focused activity. Guards moved with purpose, civilians followed plans, and the elite warriors executed strategies under Ravi's guidance. The difference was remarkable. A place that had seemed vulnerable and chaotic now felt organized and resilient. As Ravi reviewed the preparations, he noticed subtle signs of tension among the elite officials. They were impressed by his skill, but wary of a human taking such a prominent role in planning. He addressed them calmly. "Do not underestimate knowledge and patience," he said. "Strength is important, but strategy saves lives. Work together, trust one another, and act with care. That is how we survive." The officials nodded, realizing the truth in his words. Over the course of the day, they began to adopt his methods, improving communication and efficiency among their ranks. Ravi's influence spread quietly but effectively, shaping the outpost into a cohesive unit ready for the approaching threat. As night approached, Ravi walked through the tavern, observing the final preparations. Civilians were guided to safer areas, weapons were placed strategically, and guards and warriors were ready in their positions. He paused for a moment, looking out through the windows at the distant stars. The incoming threat was still hours away, but the outpost was ready. A young alien approached him again, his eyes wide with admiration. "Human, we did not know your past. We did not understand your skill. But now that we see that you have prepared us, you have made a difference," Ravi smiled faintly. "I did not do this alone. Everyone followed instructions, observed carefully, and worked together. Strength comes from unity, not just one individual." The young alien nodded thoughtfully. "Still, we owe you our lives." Ravi shook his head. "Not mine, yours. You acted, listened, and learned. That is what matters." Later that evening, as the outpost settled into a tense calm, Ravi reflected on the events of the day. His quiet presence had transformed fear into preparedness. The elite warriors, the guards, and the civilians had all become more capable. They were not only ready to defend themselves, but also to work together efficiently. The knowledge and patience of one human had changed the outlook of an entire outpost. Ravi cleaned the bar one last time, setting glasses in perfect order. He moved slowly, deliberately, savoring the moment of calm before the storm. Outside, the stars continued to shine, distant and indifferent. But the human behind the bar had made the outpost a safer place. The alien guards, who had once ignored him, now regarded him with quiet respect. They understood, finally, that this simple human held a mind and skill far beyond what they had imagined. They had underestimated him for too long. Ravi's mind, however, was already on the future. He knew that the approaching fleet was only the beginning. Preparation, vigilance, and strategy would be required continuously. He would continue to guide, to observe, and to intervene when necessary. His past as a warrior had given him skill, but his present focus on protection and strategy gave him purpose. And as night fell fully on the alien outpost, the tavern lights reflected softly on the metal walls. Patrons rested, guards remained alert, and Ravi quietly served the few remaining drinks. He was a calm, unassuming presence, yet one whose knowledge, skill, and quiet leadership had already changed the course of events. The galaxy had not yet tested him fully. The fleets approaching would soon challenge the outpost's strength. But Ravi was ready. He had revealed part of his secret, guided the aliens, and prepared defenses. The silent human who had been ignored was no longer invisible. His presence now mattered, and the outpost depended on his wisdom and leadership. As he set down the last glass and wiped the counter, Ravi looked out at the distant stars. He thought about the battles he had fought in the past and the quiet victories of today. He was no longer seeking glory, but the knowledge that lives could be protected and disasters prevented gave him a new kind of satisfaction. The night was quiet, but the calm was temporary. Danger was coming, and when it arrived, the true test of Ravi's skill, patience, and leadership would begin. The galaxy would soon see that a human, quiet and unassuming, could change the fate of many lives through wisdom, strategy, and courage. And in the quiet of the tavern, Ravi prepared silently, ready to guide, ready to protect, and ready to face the challenges that would surely come with the approaching fleets. The outpost had been transformed from a place of fear into a place of readiness, and the humans and aliens alike were now capable of standing together against whatever threat arrived. The morning was quiet, almost deceptively so. The alien outpost floated among the stars, its metal walls gleaming faintly under the light of a distant sun. Civilians moved about carefully, following the preparations that Ravi had overseen. The elite warriors practiced formations and communication, while the regular guards kept vigilant watch. Every corner of the outpost had been checked and strengthened under Ravi's guidance. From the control room, a young alien operator scanned the empty space. "Human," he called nervously. "I see them. The fleet is approaching faster than predicted." "They will be here soon," Ravi nodded calmly. "Then it is time. Remember what you practiced. Stay alert, protect the civilians, and follow the plan. Fear does not help, but strategy does." Outside the outpost, the fleet appeared like a ribbon of dark shapes against the glittering stars. Their ships were sleek and advanced, moving silently with precise coordination. The alien guards tensed and some civilians gasped at the sight. Yet Ravi remained composed, analyzing their movement patterns carefully. Every ship had a rhythm, a weakness, and a moment where it could be outmaneuvered. The first wave of ships approached rapidly. Their weapons glimmered ominously as they prepared to strike. The elite warriors moved into their assigned positions with precision. The guards followed the patterns Ravi had taught, covering blind spots and protecting critical points. Civilians took cover, but many watched in awe as the calm human orchestrated their defense. Ravi led a small strike team to the most vulnerable areas of the outpost. He moved swiftly, signaling silently and guiding the aliens with subtle gestures. Each instruction was precise, calculated, and effective. The team blocked entrances, reinforced barricades, and coordinated positions. Ravi's experience as a warrior shone through, not in brute force, but in intelligence, timing, and observation. The enemy fleet fired first, aiming at the docking bay and supply zones. Explosions shook the walls, sending sparks and smoke into the corridors. Panic threatened to rise among the guards and civilians, but Ravi's calm voice echoed clearly over the intercom. "Stay in position. Follow the plan. Do not rush. Observe and act when necessary." The elite warriors adjusted their formation, covering each other's blind spots as Ravi had taught. The guards reinforced barriers, moving efficiently despite the chaos. Civilians were guided to safe areas with minimal confusion. Every action was deliberate, every movement calculated. The outpost was no longer chaotic. It was a coordinated force capable of resisting the approaching threat. Ravi noticed the enemy ships had a predictable rhythm. Their attacks came in bursts, followed by brief pauses. He directed the elite warriors to exploit these gaps, moving quickly to strike exposed sections and disable weapons without exposing themselves to direct fire. A small intruder craft attempted to breach the wall near the living quarters. Ravi signaled to a group of guards, positioning them silently. With precise timing, they neutralized the craft, pushing it back without unnecessary damage. Civilians in the area were unharmed. The patrons in the tavern who had gathered to watch from reinforced windows whispered in awe. They had seen fear transformed into order, panic replaced by strategy, and chaos converted into control. The human who had once been ignored was now the reason the outpost could stand against such an advanced fleet. Ravi moved to another vulnerable point where several intruder ships were targeting the supply lines. He assessed the angles and gaps in the enemy formation. Signaling silently, he guided the elite warriors and guards to intercept the ships. Using their coordinated positioning, they forced the enemy ships to retreat, even though they were technologically superior. At one point, a group of intruders attempted a flanking maneuver to target the civilians directly. Ravi noticed it immediately. He acted swiftly, moving with agility and precision to block their path. The guards followed his guidance perfectly, forming a protective line that prevented the enemy from reaching the civilians. The attackers were forced to retreat once again, frustrated by the unexpected resistance. Inside the control room, the young operator monitored the entire battle. "Human," he said breathlessly, "we would have been overrun if not for your instructions. You've saved countless lives today." Ravi nodded without pride. "I did not do this alone. Everyone acted as instructed. Observe, follow orders, and protect those who cannot defend themselves. That is how we survive." The enemy fleet tried a final assault, concentrating their firepower on the central control area. Ravi anticipated their move. He had predicted this exact pattern and had positioned the guards and elite warriors in advance. When the enemy attacked, they were met with organized defense, precise countermeasures, and coordinated resistance. Their attacks were repelled and the fleet began to retreat, unable to break through the outpost's defenses. A cheer rose from the civilians and the elite warriors. They had witnessed a human, calm and seemingly ordinary, guide them to victory against a far more advanced force. The alien guards, who had once dismissed Ravi, now looked at him with deep respect. His knowledge, strategy, and leadership had saved the day. Ravi allowed a small smile as he returned to the tavern. The patrons looked at him with admiration. They had seen the strength of intelligence, patience, and guidance. Not all victories were won by brute force. Some were won by careful observation, planning, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. One young alien approached him. "Human, you did more than we imagined. You saved lives and you taught us something important today. We will not forget it." Ravi's expression remained calm. "Remember this, strength is not only in weapons. It is in understanding, in preparation, and in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Today you acted with courage, and that mattered more than any individual." The patrons and guards nodded thoughtfully. The lesson was clear. Humanity's value was not just in physical power, but in intellect, strategy, and moral courage. Ravi had demonstrated that one human, quiet and unassuming, could influence the course of events and save countless lives. As the outpost began repairs and assessed damages, Ravi walked quietly among the people. He checked on the injured, reassured the frightened, and ensured the defense points remained secure. Even in victory, he remained vigilant, knowing that threats in the galaxy were constant and unpredictable. The alien officials approached him, bowing slightly in respect. "Human," one said, "we underestimated you. Your guidance, intelligence, and calm in the face of danger have shown us that humans are more than we imagined. You have proven the worth of your species today." Ravi shook his head gently. "It is not about proving worth. It is about protecting lives, learning from mistakes, and acting with care. That is what matters. Every species has value when they choose to act wisely." As the night fell over the outpost, Ravi returned to his role behind the bar. He served drinks quietly, smiled at the patrons, and observed the calm returning to the room. The outpost had survived not because of sheer force, but because intelligence, preparation, and courage had been combined in action. The elite warriors continued their training quietly, practicing the strategies Ravi had shown them. The guards moved with greater awareness and precision. Even the civilians now understood the importance of teamwork, observation, and patience. The outpost had changed, and its people were stronger because of it. Ravi cleaned the last glass, looking out at the stars. The fleet had retreated, but he knew the galaxy held many more dangers. Still, today had proven a powerful lesson, that humanity, with its combination of intelligence, courage, and careful action, could influence events far beyond its own world. One quiet human had guided an entire outpost to victory and safety. A young alien approached him once more. "Human, will you stay here with us?" Ravi shook his head, smiling softly. "I cannot stay. My work continues elsewhere. But remember what you have learned. Unity, preparation, and careful action are stronger than any single weapon. Protect others, observe, and act wisely. That is how you survive and thrive." The alien nodded, inspired by his words. Ravi returned to his quiet work, serving the last of the drinks, arranging the bar, and ensuring the tavern remained calm. He had proven what one human could do when intelligence, courage, and care were applied. The galaxy had witnessed the quiet power of humanity. And even among aliens who had once dismissed him, respect and admiration had grown. As the outpost settled into a peaceful night, Ravi looked at the distant stars. He thought of the battles of his past and the quiet victories of today. He had not sought glory, fame, or recognition. His satisfaction came from knowing that lives had been protected, that preparation had worked, and that courage had triumphed over fear. And so, the once feared warrior of Earth returned to being a quiet bartender, unnoticed yet powerful in subtle ways. He had proven humanity's worth not through violence but through strategy, guidance, and the courage to act wisely. The alien guards, elite warriors, civilians, and patrons had learned an invaluable lesson. Sometimes, the quiet human can change the fate of many. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and threats, but today had shown that even one determined human could make a difference. And as Ravi continued his calm work, the outpost remained safe, stronger and wiser, ready to face whatever the stars might send next.